Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. Welcome to another edition of the ODPH. I'm your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the one, the only, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to discuss. Let's waste no more time. Hashtag it up with us. Hashtag ODPH. Join in the conversation on social media because we want to hear from you. Let's kick it off with some NFL action recap. Now, this week, definitely a lot of crazy games going on. And I don't want to bring up your beloved Patriots, Pad.
Thank you.
Because the miracle in Miami, or whatever you want to call that, I have no words for. So we don't even really need to get into it. Just if you want to say something, I'm not going to put you on the spot.
I will say this. There's a lot of people, and I heard from a lot of folks I know, why was Gronkowski in the game? Why was he a defender? Why was he there? They've done this since Gronkowski was drafted by the Patriots. If I'm not mistaken, he played basketball in high school. And the only time he's ever on anything that's not offense and playing tight end is one special teams when they know it's going to be an onside kick and they wanted to recover because, well, it's like trying to kick an onside ball into a brick wall. It's not going to work.
Right.
The only other time being end of game, Hail Mary passes, because like I said, if I'm not mistaken, he played basketball in high school. They drop him deep to basically jump up, catch the ball, or knock it down. And if you watch the end of that play, obviously Tannehill can't throw that far. They were expecting a deep pass. That's why when you dumped it middle of the field, there was almost nobody there. It was because they rushed forward, they dropped everybody else.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things that it happens. And plus, the Patriots don't play well when they have to travel down south.
Especially in December. They're like 1-5, 1-6. It came up in my Facebook memories. They were down there this same week, and they also lost that same week.
Yeah, no, I think they've lost the past couple games to Miami in Miami.
Yeah.
But it's a whole different story when they get to Foxborough. Obviously, with the condition of the AFC East, they really don't need to dwell upon this one too much. The division is pretty much theirs. And we don't even need to get into the Bills, too. It was a heartbreaker to the Jets, but, hey, it happens. Josh Allen, he's definitely he's learning. And that's the thing. I mean, is he the franchise guy yet? No, but as a Bills fan, I do like some things I've seen. I just wish the wide receiver core was a little better.
Diamonds aren't made overnight.
Exactly. And neither are the Bills, but we'll see what happens next season. But let's get into those locks and leaps, shall we? So for my lock, I took the hot hand. I took the Vegas line. I was feeling the Houston Texans. I was like, you know what? They're on the win streak. Let's go do this. And obviously, I went against my cardinal rule of going, okay, division game, go with the hot hand.
Well, I mean, if you take out that second quarter and that second quarter ceases to exist, you would have been right.
Right, and that's the thing. But the Colts found a way to break the 9-game winning streak of Houston. And obviously, they had a great game, 24-21. Andrew Luck throwing for 399 yards and two touchdowns, one interception.
Got one more yard.
Obviously, for fantasy purposes, everybody wanted him for one more yard.
Yep.
But if you're the Colts, you're hanging in there. And definitely in wild card contention.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to be a fight no matter who you have in that mix. Obviously, the AFC East for the final playoff spot is getting very, very close with everybody involved. And for Houston, I don't think, obviously, losing a game like this is not the end of the world, so to speak.
Right.
Because obviously when you go on these big win streaks, you really don't want to be winning that many games per se going into the playoffs, because that's usually when the pressure starts building.
Yeah.
And for Houston, they didn't have that bad of a day either. Deshaun Watson thrown for 267 and a touchdown, and they were looking pretty good, coming back and almost pulling it off. But Indianapolis rather jumped out to that big second quarter. And, they just held on to win. Yeah,
I'm looking at the playoff seeding for the AFC. Indy, obviously Houston's sitting at the 3 seed. Looking at Indianapolis, so they are currently the 7th seed, but also the 6th seed is Baltimore with the same record. Miami's the 8th seed with the same record. So they're right in it.
Yeah, they're going to be right in it, and obviously there's going to be some really close games, and like I said, it's going to be a pretty big fight between all the teams involved to get that last spot.
And I'm looking at the rest of the Colts schedule. Their next game is at home against Dallas, at home against the Giants, and then they travel to Tennessee to close out the year.
Yeah, so it'll be some fun football to watch, and definitely you got to keep an eye on the Colts moving forward. And then for my leap, I had a feeling that Tampa Bay was going to play New Orleans close, rather. I figured they do. They usually do, but I was proven wrong yet again. Drew Brees had a huge second half.
Oh, yeah.
And bringing the Saints back, because at the beginning of the game, it looked like Tampa Bay was on point, and my prediction was going to come right.
Yeah.
But sadly, no. But I have nothing against the Saints. I mean, obviously, they are arguably the best team in football right now.
Hard to argue against it.
Yeah, even Drew Brees having a bad game, 201 yards, rather, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, nothing to sneeze at. But they did enough to come back from 11 points down to clinch the NFC South.
We'll say if 201 yards with 1 touchdown is a bad day for Drew Brees, there's a lot of quarterbacks, no matter if it's the NFL or some other league, would take that.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the Saints, I mean, they're back on the winning track. And
yeah.
For now, they've clinched their playoff spot. Is it enough to win, get number 1 overall? Not necessarily there just yet. I mean, obviously with the Rams hanging in there.
Well, the thing of it is they are ahead of the Rams, but if it does come down to they have the same record, they do have a tiebreaker over the Rams based on head-to-head win percentage.
Right, but they've still got some football to play to make sure that doesn't happen. I mean, for the Saints, they need to have home field advantage to get to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely, and I mean, I'm looking at the rest of their schedule. Their next game is at Carolina, at home against the Steelers, and then at home against Carolina to close out the year.
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be some strong football coming forward, and the Saints, like I said, they're getting back on the winning track.
Jumping to my lock sleeps, I had another stellar performance, if I do say so myself. For my lock, I had the Los Angeles Chargers. Yes, that's right. I said the Los Angeles Chargers.
I was hoping you said San Diego.
Nope. Beating the Cincinnati Bengals, which they did 26-21 as the final score. Phillip Rivers, 19 of 29, 220 yards, 1 touchdown. Austin Eckler, 15 carries, 66 yards for 1 touchdown. And then Keenan Allen, 5 catches, 78 yards for 1 touchdown.
The Chargers are definitely playing some gritty football, and they might jump past the Chiefs by the time it's all said and done for that AFC West title.
Don't sleep on them, man. They are right there, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm going to pull it up right now. Yeah, so the Chiefs are 11-2. The Chargers are 10-3. So it's like they're one more win, and the Chiefs slip up one more time, and they're right there.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. The Chargers are getting hot at the right time, albeit, though, the running game, not the strongest performance. I mean, Eckler had 66 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, without Melvin Gordon in the lineup, it's a different offense, but they're doing enough to win, and the defense is playing lights out, no pun intended. And they are definitely making their presence known that this is not the Chiefs to run away with. And they got hot at the right time, and that's going to be the thing. They're beating the teams they should. Obviously, Cincinnati is definitely beat up this year. So that was a team that they needed to win, albeit it was a lot closer than I think people thought, because his original point spread was, 14?
Something like that, yeah.
But obviously, Rivers and company did enough, and like I say, if they can continue this momentum, they were my pick to win the Super Bowl. So I am sticking to my guns about that.
Well, and the rest of their schedule is not easy. They have a game this coming Thursday against the aforementioned Kansas City Chiefs. And I know there's a lot of people wondering about Melvin Gordon because, well, we're getting right into the heart of fantasy football playoff season. It's being reported that Melvin Gordon will be a game-time decision for this Thursday, whether he will play or not. So stay tuned for that one. But after that, they've got a game at home against the Ravens, and then they travel to Denver to close out the year.
And, obviously, if you're the Chargers, I would say I would sit Gordon this week as well.
Yeah.
I would not take that risk. I understand it's a big game.
Oh, yeah.
Arguably one of your biggest ones this season. But your running game has been doing well enough between Eckler and Jackson.
Yeah.
That you're not going to be, hurting that badly per se. And obviously, the first time the Chiefs played the Chargers this year, it was a shootout, but it was more so that Kansas City was shooting the lights out of the place.
Oh, yeah.
This time coming around, it's going to be a different ball game. And they kind of know what they're going to expect from Patrick Mahomes and company.
Yeah.
So, obviously, this one is going to be more of an air threat, I would say, so to speak, than on the ground.
Oh, yeah. And Phillip Rivers is more than willing to chuck the ball 50, 60 times.
Yeah. So, that being said, I would sit him if I was the Chargers just for this week. I know fantasy football players do not want me to say that, but let's be honest. In the NFL, they're not worried about fantasy football. They're worried about the real deal. Yeah. For the Chargers, this is your season, and if you can hang tough with Kansas City, and I think it's going to be a closer game than people expect this time around, that's going to be the true talent point.
Especially since the Chargers, as we record, are the 5th seed. So it's not like, they're desperate to get a win. They're desperate because they're fighting for their playoff lives. They're on the outside looking at. No, they're in it as it stands right now, and you don't want to, risk one huge part of your offense for the playoffs just for one game.
Right.
And then moving over to my leap, I took the Cleveland Browns to beat the Carolina Panthers, which they did by a final score of 26-20. Baker Mayfield, 18 of 22 for 238 yards, 1 touchdown. Nick Chubb had a good game, 13 carries for 66 yards. And then Brashad Perriman, 2 catches for 81 yards. And let me just say one thing. Holy moly, the needle Baker Mayfield threaded on that 1 touchdown play.
Absolutely incredible.
Oh, wow.
The Browns, I tell you what, if it wasn't for a couple games earlier in the season, they would probably be locked in for the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
I got to imagine. They'd probably be, dare I say 9-5 at this point?
Arguably, yeah.
Arguably. But I tell you what, if you're a Browns fan right now, you got to be loving life.
Oh, yeah.
Even in the games that they're losing, I mean, they've only had one really bad game with Baker at the helm. But Mayfield is giving you a completely different intangible. He's lit up the offense. And obviously, since Hugh Jackson has left town, it's a whole different team now.
That's the one thing I love. I saw a meme online where it was like, in 3 weeks or whatever it is, since they fired Hugh Jackson, they've won as many games than the entire tenure of Hugh Jackson in Cleveland.
Yeah, and I think that just shows the players are rallying around Mayfield, and they're definitely, it just seems like a new energy on the field.
It's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, and it's what they need. And for the Browns, I mean, whatever happens this season, I don't want to say it's a wash. I think if they can somehow sneak into the playoffs, it's a win situation. If they don't, they're at least in the right direction. That I would say they're not the laughing stock of the league anymore.
Even if they don't make the playoffs this year is not a wash for me, because as we record, they're 5-7-1. And they're 4-2-1 at home. The Browns have a winning record at home.
Yeah.
For me, this season is a massive success. Like, for a lot of teams, the Cowboys, the Giants, the Patriots, the Steelers, it's win the Super Bowl or the season's a bust.
Right.
And for a lot of teams, that's also true. But for the Browns, man, this season's a massive success. As if they won this, they won their own Super Bowl. They are not like you said, the laughing stock of the NFL. They're no longer a team that other opposing teams look at the schedule in April or whatever it is and go, we're playing Cleveland and we can kick our feet back and sip on some Mai Tais.
Yeah, exactly. The Browns have definitely changed the culture. I mean, and like I've said in previous episodes, Mayfield coming in there was the right move.
Yeah.
Completely on board because of the attitude, and he definitely has the winning mentality, and they got to change that culture around. I don't think if the Browns took Sam Darnold, it would be happen in the same way per se. I mean, I just think it's just different guys.
I mean, you look at the way things are going as they stand now. Obviously, would it play out the same way? Probably not. But as it stands right now, it looks like the Browns made the right choice.
Oh, absolutely. And for Carolina, I sense the proverbial wheels are coming off the tracks there, so to speak.
Yeah, something tells me their head coach won't be around much longer. I don't know anything. I haven't read anything, but just, you go from in the Super Bowl almost winning it to now you're the 7th seed, you're 6-7, and it's not looking good.
No, for a 5th straight loss. I mean, granted, the games have been close. They've lost. I mean, this week was 26-20. I mean, last, when they played Seattle, it was by a field goal late minute. So I mean, it's not like they're not playing hard for Ron Rivera,
right?
But this is one of those situations that for Carolina, who was looking so hot coming out of the gate, they've really cooled off, and they're not pulling off the wins. I mean, they're still putting up good numbers. I mean, Cam Newton throwing for 265. McCaffrey running for 63 and 2 touchdowns. They're still putting up points.
Right.
So it's not like they're getting blown out every game, but when you're losing your 5th straight now, and especially going into December where these are the games that are really, I don't want to say every game isn't important because they all are for the NFL because the season is so short.
Right.
But when you get November to December, this is crunch time. This is really where if you're in a very competitive division, these are the games that you're looked at.
Right, and I mean they're currently 6-7, so they're mathematically they're right there. They're at the 7th seed, but then like we mentioned before when we were talking about the Saints, their remaining record of 3 weeks, 2/3 of it is against arguably the best team in the NFL in New Orleans, and then the one in between is at home against the Falcons.
Yeah, which, I mean, division games are division games.
Yeah.
And especially for New Orleans, it's every game from here on out is a must-win because they want home field advantage.
Oh, yeah.
So for the Falcons, you never know what team you're going to get out of those guys.
And if you think Sean Payton and Drew Brees are going to coast just because they've got the division locked up, you are sadly mistaken.
No, they know what's at stake.
Yeah.
I mean, the stakes are extremely high for them. They need to, because if they have to travel, like I said, they're going to struggle to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
In my opinion. They have a great team, don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But they do not want to be going out to play in L.A. They want to keep everything at the Dome, where their home field advantage is one of the best in the league.
Ain't no cooking like home cooking.
Absolutely. So it'd be fun to watch. And, I mean, for Carolina, I don't really have any good answers, but they better find a way to win and win quickly if they want to hang in for the season, because otherwise the season might be looking like a loss.
Yeah, I mean, what you do, I don't know. I mean, you've got McCaffrey, you've got Cam Newton. You got the pieces. You just got to put them together.
Absolutely. I mean, doing some quick hits around the league. The Giants actually had a great game against the Redskins.
So did Saquon Barkley. Thank you to my fantasy team.
Absolutely, winning 40-16 over the Redskins. I mean, Redskins, it's tough, but when your quarterback play is not getting anything done,
right?
Remains to be seen. And the other big game of the week had to be the Bears taking it to the L.A. Rams on Sunday Night Football.
Holy cow, I could not believe that score when I saw it went final. I was kind of jumping back and forth between a couple things, but it was real surprising to see that score.
Yeah, 15-6, and obviously the Bears defense is making the headlines all again. I mean, Trubisky struggled in that game. No question about that. I mean, throwing for 110 and a touchdown and 3 interceptions. But when the defense is playing as well as they are, and Khalil Mack.
Oh, my God.
Playing out of his mind. I mean, I know everybody's talking about Gurley as an MVP, Mahomes as an MVP.
You cannot sleep on Mack.
You got to throw Khalil Mack's name in that equation, because ever since he came to the Windy City there, it's a whole different team.
Man, I would not like to be a Raiders fan right now, because it's got to be painful to watch this, knowing you had this guy, your coach let him go, and now he's just tearing every opposing team apart that he goes against.
And you got to think about it, too. They got rid of Khalil Mack, who's doing great in Chicago. They got rid of Amari Cooper,
who won the game for them in Dallas,
who had a career day in Dallas against Philadelphia. And I know the Raiders just fired their GM, too.
You're right.
So if I'm not mistaken, John Gruden's taken over everything.
Yeah.
I as an Oakland fan, I wish I could have better words for you, but next year is going to be a make or break, I think, for Gruden already.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I know there's the website where the timer's counting down to when his contract is up, but, man, it's not looking pretty.
It definitely isn't. But that was a quick hit around the NFL. Let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What was your thoughts on this past week of the NFL? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Johnny Moose from Excite Wrestling, and you're listening to the ODPH. I didn't mess it up. I thought I would. Right now, back to the guys.
Come back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH, and there was a huge UFC card this past weekend.
Arguably the best one we've seen to date.
It's been a good one. I don't know if it was card of the year, but they definitely had some highlight reel fights going on. UFC 231. The main card did not disappoint.
No.
Definitely not. Pad, why don't you give us a quick rundown?
Well, right out the gates, they came out firing when Diego Santos defeated Jimmy Manuwa by a knockout punch in the 41 seconds into the second round.
Yeah, this one, I was trying to talk to the common man Vince Iotoli from Crow's Nest MMA about. And what I had the vibe when I was watching this one between Manuwa and Santos, this kind of reminded me, but like maybe a little slower pace per se, of like when Vanderlei Silva fought Brian Stann.
Okay.
This was just straight up rock'em sock'em.
Yeah.
Everybody was swinging for the fences.
Yeah.
They wanted to end this one quickly. And Santos definitely made a statement in this one.
Oh, yeah.
Manuwa, I mean, he's always been a contender, but obviously, I don't know if it looked like the chin is starting to go a little bit. He was taking some very, very heavy shots, and Santos was making the full opportunity he was on the main card for that. So, I mean, that to kick off the show like that, that's what you want for the main card. I mean, what else could you really say about that except I don't know what they're going to do next with Santos, but I expect a big name fight for him coming down the road.
It was one of those scenarios where, he goes to get interviewed by Joe Rogan. He could have called out anyone in the light heavyweight division, and I'd be like, no, yeah, okay. Yeah, after that performance, yes.
Yeah, I know. When I was talking to Common Man, too, he was mentioning about Anthony Smith, and I'm like, I don't know just yet. I think Smith is in line for the winner of Gustafsson Bones for the light heavyweight title, rather. So I don't know yet, but stay tuned because Santos made a statement win, and those statement wins usually lead to big, big fights.
Other one worth mentioning was the welterweight fight between Gunnar Nelson, who defeated Alex Oliveira by submission with a rear naked choke in the second round.
Who threw one of the most Kenny Florian-like elbows to basically cut open Oliveira. that I've seen in a while.
Yeah, it was nasty.
Because once that cut happened, Oliveira was just pouring blood in the middle of the cage.
It looked like something out of a bad B horror movie.
Yeah, it was horrific, and it was just like, excuse me, it was just like, whoa, like, because they were having a very highly contested bout, and obviously Nelson got the submission on that, and Oliveira, you can see the pictures he was taking. He definitely got stitched up after that one. So definitely the fights are definitely making sure the action is in there.
Yep.
And then we get to the co-main.
Oh, boy.
Which Valerina Shevchenko versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And this one for the women's flyweight title. And definitely Shevchenko looked like this is her weight class.
Oh, yeah. She looked, this is my division. I'm running it until somebody kicks me off.
Yeah, she looked absolutely impressive in this. Jędrzejczyk looked like a small flyweight.
Yes.
Which is nothing against her skill level. She was definitely swinging. She's definitely going. I think strawweight is her weight class, and that's where she should stay.
She held her own for a little bit, but then you could kind of see, I don't necessarily want to say gas ran out, but clearly Valentina was the superior athlete in this fight.
Yeah, Shevchenko was definitely dictating the pace of the fight.
Yes.
And she was definitely imposing her will. And she looked great in the fight. I mean, she was definitely making enough for a statement that she should win the flyweight title. And I'm not sure who's next on the card, but she wants to be a fighting champion, and I can't wait to see who she gets back in the cage with.
It'll be incredible, whoever it is.
Yeah. And then we get to the main event.
Holy crap.
Now, it was kind of crazy hearing some of the odds that Max Holloway, who was on such a win streak, was coming in as an underdog. Mm-hmm. And to Brian Ortega, who was undefeated before this fight, was a very decent favorite to win.
Yeah.
But that's why we say it doesn't matter what they say on paper. It's what happens when you get in the cage. And like we said last week, I said if Max Holloway wanted to do this, he had to come out swinging early. And boy, did he ever.
I just want to say, I don't normally recommend, if you can find this fight somehow, go watch it. But seriously, go find this fight somehow and watch it, because it was one of the craziest fights I've ever seen. And I remember at one point saying in the middle of one, like I think it was the third or fourth round, what are these guys made out of? Because there were several times that I think any other fighter, they would have dropped. But they just kept going.
Yeah, this one was a very skillful fight for Holloway, who he looked as sharp as I've ever seen him.
Oh, yeah.
His striking was fully on point.
Yeah, there was a lot of reactions online during the fight while it's going on, and they're throwing crazy stats up on the screen, and it's like, good luck to whoever wants to try and knock off Max Holloway, because it's going to take an act of God to do it.
Well, the thing about it is he started landing his combos, and Ortega is more known for submissions. He can strike, though, so it wasn't like a complete fish out of water, per se, but it was just something as we're watching, Holloway just started getting in his rhythm, and he definitely was, impacting the pace.
And if I remember the fight, I think at one point, I think it was the late first, early second, you noted that Holloway had the timing down.
Yeah, he had his timing down. Like, he was really kind of coming in there in the second round. He was really starting to get some shots landed. Mm-hmm. And Holloway, like I said, I think he picked Ortega's timing down. Yeah. And because you just saw the combos he was landing. I mean, he was just working the jabs, and he was definitely just imposing that Ortega just really, I don't want to say he didn't have like a game plan after, that was starting to happen, but it was kind of one of those situations like, okay, what do I do now?
Right. And there were a couple moments where he was taunting, but it wasn't, the Diaz brothers taunting where, okay, they're taunting and then they're getting their head knocked off. No, it was taunting while he's also ducking and getting out of the way. So he had everything down to a T.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. For being off for, it almost seemed like a year.
I believe it's something like a year.
Yeah, Holloway looked as sharp as ever. Mm-hmm. And the only round I think that he might have lost was the third round.
Right.
But there was so many shots getting landed by both.
It was so close that it's hard to tell.
Yeah, that one you can kind of go either way. I mean, I know Ortega was trying to do some takedowns, but I mean, at this point you could definitely see the wear and tear from the first two rounds taking its toll.
Yeah.
And then the fourth round was all Holloway.
Right, because at this point, Holloway had lost a bit of a step. Not much, but, you could tell he wasn't as crisp as he was in the first couple rounds, but the wear and tear compared from him to Brian Ortega was night and day.
Right, and that's the one thing, too, for Ortega. This is the first time he was ever in, like, the championship rounds. And it's a whole different thing when you get in there. Because for Holloway, this is nothing new to him, per se. He's been, he's defended his belt. And for him, this is a situation where he needed to kind of really make a statement and let everybody know he was back. He did it with an exclamation point.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 307 significant strikes,
That's a lot.
in the fourth round, Ortega was hit with 134 of them.
Yeah.
Now, this is from MMAfighting.com. I just want to say for record, yes.
Yeah.
That's
a lot.
That was just showing where the fight was going. And if you saw Ortega's face, it was a crimson mask. I think his orbital was broke.
Oh, it was absolutely broken, and it was starting to swell shut over his one eye.
But take nothing away from Ortega.
Because he literally should have dropped about 5 times in that fight, but he kept going.
Yeah. You want to talk about a fighter's heart?
Yeah.
And you want to talk about the will to win? He was still fighting. I mean, granted, Max was picking him apart in that fourth, but take nothing away from the effort.
It almost seemed like one of the Hollywood boxing movies where, the main character is fighting against their opponent and they're getting beat and the coach wants to throw the towel in and the fighter goes, "No, I'm going to keep going." It was like the same type of scenario where, okay, realistically he should have been out, but he kept going.
No, that was just the sheer will to win.
Yeah.
And Ortega wanted it bad. And for me as a fight fan, that's what I love seeing.
Yeah.
People that don't want to quit. I mean, yeah, sure, it didn't look great on paper, and it didn't look great what was happening, but he didn't quit.
And it does a lot for MMA fans like myself, who I know who Brian Ortega is. I've heard the name, but I don't necessarily go, oh, Brian Ortega. But after this fight, if I see Brian Ortega's on a fight, I'm like, all right, that's going to be a good fight because we know he can go and we know he can, has a chin of absolute titanium.
Well, that's the thing, is when you get exposed, when a fighter like this, who, like I say, I watch more MMA out of the panel than I think anybody does. I know who Ortega is, and I know what he brings to the table.
Yeah.
But for like this Pat, who he definitely has a good idea about who fighters are. Now, when you see Ortega, and now the buzz that came from him,
right?
I know he lost the fight.
I think this did more for him than winning it would have.
This is what you can say is a good loss because for this, I mean, obviously he was undefeated going into this. But this is one that you can learn and definitely come back sharper the next time around. And definitely his star power went up from this.
Yes.
Because now he's, I don't want to say a household name, but for the UFC, who desperately needs to build stars, this is one on the rise.
This is one that, the diehards would have known it. The fanatics would have known the name. He's transitioned from the fanatics and the diehards to now I would say the casuals know his name. Not I watch every couple of cards, but, they watch the cards. They might not know the names, but now they're going to know who he is.
Yeah, because now, is he going to be a name that moves the needle? No, but he'll start slowly inching it in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I think if you give him another high-profile fight when he's healthy, because I think out of this one, I would say we should not expect to see him back for 6 months at the bare minimum.
At the minimum.
I would say probably 9 is going to be a safer bet.
9 is probably a safer bet. He took his lumps.
Yeah, he took his lumps, but I'm saying to get hit with that many shots and he kept going forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key takeaway from this. It wasn't that he was getting beat, because he was.
Yeah.
He was losing that. That round, I was scoring on the ODPH Twitter. He lost 10-8 on that round.
Yeah.
But he still was going forward. Just the thing was Max was fighting at a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And Max looked as sharp as could be and definitely has cemented his legacy in the 145-pound division.
Well, so you hear a lot, they were playing like a man possessed. I've never seen that more true than I was watching Max Holloway fight.
Oh, yeah, because you think about it, and, the past year has not been a good year for him.
No.
In any stretch. And, obviously, he was having the health issues, and it was great to see him healthy. That was the thing more important, I think, from this takeaway, is he came back and he looked like the Max of old.
Yes.
He looked like the champion we all know. It wasn't like he was a shell of his former self by any means.
No.
His striking was so crisp and on point that now, immediately after the fight, the rumor mill started going, and I thought Dana White in the post-presser said something very interesting, that he wants to move Max up to 155.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of, Max alluded to a little bit, because Max is ready to go right now, and he's ready to take on all competition.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think that's a good move.
Yeah.
Because I think if he's having a difficulty making 145, and a lot of fighters do.
Sure.
Because I know Conor was having issues doing it. I know Jose Aldo was having issues doing it. When you start putting on that much muscle mass, it's tough to cut down.
Mm-hmm.
I think for Holloway, it would be a good step to move up to 155.
Right.
I'd have no issue with it. And in fact, the fight I want to see, and I know I don't have good luck when I usually throw this out in the universe, but I'm going to take my shot. I want him and Tony Ferguson.
Ooh, that'd be good.
I need to see that fight.
That'd be good.
That one will be one that if you want to talk about how the impact of Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner was to get fans into MMA. This is one that you tell fans, okay, you haven't watched UFC in a while, you need to watch this fight.
Yeah.
And they will rekindle their fandom without question. Now, I know there's a lot of speculation about what's going to go on. I know it was rumored at some point, we haven't heard any noise about it lately, about a semi-tournament of Khabib versus Ferguson, and the winner of that would fight the winner of Conor versus Dustin Poirier.
Right.
I'd be okay with that as well.
Yeah.
But if Max wants to come up to 155, you got to sneak him in there somewhere.
Yeah, he's in the conversation.
I mean, I could definitely see him fighting Khabib, and I think that would be a good fight. I would take Khabib in that one, though.
Yeah.
Because just until somebody can stop his wrestling, Khabib is going to run that division.
Absolutely. No, there's nothing has shown me to this point that you can stop Khabib.
No. I mean, there's going to be somebody. I think Ferguson will give him a good run.
Yeah.
I think definitely better than Conor did, without question. I'm not too excited about seeing an immediate rematch between those two, between Khabib and Conor.
Let it simmer and then build it up.
Well, no, but I think they're doing the right route. If he can beat Poirier, McGregor does deserve another shot.
Yeah.
I don't struggle with that at all. But I'm saying, for my money, if you can book Max Holloway and Tony Ferguson, and then the winner of that gets Khabib, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, just a couple more things noteworthy from UFC 231. Of course, fight of the night went to Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega.
No-brainer there.
And then performance of the night went to both Max Holloway and Thiago Santos. There was a record set at UFC 231, though. Wasn't attendance or anything like that. There were a total of 1,674 significant strikes landed, a new single event UFC record.
Jeez.
Yeah, and you got to figure at least half of those are Max Holloway, so,
Oh, yeah, that was just a clinic.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say clinic, but that was just an instant classic more so. But it was great to see Max back to being Maxi Baby. And then, for Ortega, the ceiling has grown, the sky is the limit, and this is a good loss to learn from.
Yeah.
And granted, I would be very scared if I was the guy that's going to be fighting him when he comes back in 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, no, I would be too.
Because he's going to be all fired up and ready to go, and then look out, because from a fight like this is where you learn from.
Yep.
Now, there was also some big MMA news, too, that just broke right before we were recording. Pat?
So, a little interesting story came down from Ariel Helwani of ESPN, where One Championship is coming to America. Now, if you're a diehard MMA fan, you know who One Championship is. If you're casual, you've heard of UFC, you might have heard of Bellator, but you don't know who One Championship is. Now, for those who don't know, One Championship, formerly known as One Fighting Championship or One FC, is a Singapore-based mixed martial arts promotion, which was launched on the 14th of July, 2011. Now, it's made some big news where Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson is now a part of it in that bizarre quote-unquote trade.
Yeah, I mean, Mighty Mouse is a part of it. Eddie Alvarez signed there. Sage Northcutt left the UFC to go test the waters there, which I think is a great move. And if I'm not mistaken, Akiyama just signed there too.
Yeah, so there's definitely some big names over there. But so the news came out today that the Asian-based promotion has signed a 3-year broadcast deal with Turner Sports. Turner Sports, of course, being TBS, TNT. Now, according to Ariel Helwani, quote, the deal, which goes into effect on January 1st, calls for 24 events to air live on Bleacher Report Live, Turner's digital platform. The partnership is expected to be announced in the coming days. In addition to the live events, Turner will air shoulder programming and taped events on TNT, and there is also a reality show in the works as well, according to sources.
Okay, I've got thoughts.
Okay.
1, love this.
Yeah.
Love this, love this, love this. Now, what I'm saying by this is anytime you can get MMA on normal standard cable TV in the U.S., I think is a great move.
Yes.
And I think One Championship definitely has a lot of talented fighters. I know we just talked about the guys that are here from the UFC that are now over there, but they have a very talented roster over there.
Yeah.
The fact that they're now getting shown here, where the UFC is now doing their deal with ESPN starting January 1st.
Yep.
And I believe they've said Donald Cowboy Cerrone is going to be in the first card that's on the ESPN Plus subscription service.
Yep.
So they're going to be making some moves in January. I know that if you saw First Take this morning on ESPN, Oscar De La Hoya was talking about Golden Boy Productions doing some more MMA cards and some more interviews on that. You can go check that online. I'm not going to get into that whole interview. But it's great to just see that there's now some growth going into the MMA world starting in 2019. And I think for one championship, it's great to see some competition coming over on the cable platforms. And with Turner now getting into the deal, this is kind of huge. The fact that you could be seeing, I guess my only thing I'm just a little skeptical about is when you're doing a reality-based show,
right?
Are they going to be trying to do their own Ultimate Fighter?
That's my guess.
Because I know when it happened with Bellator, I don't, I just kind of lost interest because it's like there's only one Ultimate Fighter.
Right.
And I would love to see like something different.
Only other thing I could think they might do is they might pick a fighter, one of their high profile ones, like a Mighty Mouse, like a Sage Northcutt, like a Eddie Alvarez, and do kind of like WWE does on their network, and like WWE has the 24 or the 365, and kind of do something like that where let the cameras follow that fighter for a camp, however long it ends up being, the ins, the outs, the ups, and the downs. And really, because we read stuff and we hear stuff and we kind of have an idea what goes on in camp, but realistically, we don't know what happens during a camp. Right. So it'd be like a real good inside look at one of the top guys, like a Mighty Mouse. How do they prepare? What do they do? What does it entail?
Yeah, no, that would definitely be interesting, Pat. That would be a good idea. I know that we've kind of seen like little bits and pieces when the UFC's done their countdowns or embedded shows.
Yeah.
But to do it from like start to finish, like to see how contracts are signed and then see the process of, okay, when do they start working away? I think that'd be something great. And I think especially for a fighter like, let's say, Demetrius Johnson.
Yeah.
To see how he prepares.
Right, because he's one of the best in the world.
Arguably the pound-for-pound guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he lost a close decision, and everybody's writing him off, which is mind-blowing to me, but that's a whole other topic. But to see him in his first fight, I think would be great, because especially if you're trying to introduce a brand-new audience to a promotion that, I mean, outside the United States, not a lot of people know about.
Right, and if you're in the United States and you've heard of them, you're like a real diehard fanatic MMA fan.
Right, outside the U.S., I mean, one championship is very well known.
Yeah.
Inside, I mean, unless you're a hardcore MMA fan, you probably don't know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think that'd be a great thing, especially getting on Turner. I mean, we know what kind of production they do with their baseball and their NBA coverage.
Oh, yeah.
So this is nothing to sneeze at.
No.
So for them to put the investment in, I think is great. And plus, I like to see more competition happen. That you're now kind of, I'm not saying you're seeing a real parity, where everybody's on an equal playing field, so to speak. I mean, UFC is still the biggest, dog in the yard. But what I'm saying is, it's nice to see that other promotions are starting to grow their brands and grow their exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously, putting on, with teaming up with Turner Sports is huge.
Oh,
huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for this. I think this is a great move. I'm just, like I said, the only thing I'd be skeptical is, okay, anytime you're trying to do a reality show, it's like you
got to be careful.
You got to be careful, and you don't want to copy The Ultimate Fighter, because obviously when you do, I mean, The Ultimate Fighter's ratings have gone down over the past years. I mean, because it's almost like, the same old, same old. So obviously doing it with your fighters and your promotion,
it might be a flash in the pan, but
it's just something with, anytime you try doing reality shows, it's like, are you really making it about the sport, or are you making it about something else? I guess that's kind of the way I look at it. That's my own official opinion.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see it, and I guarantee you I'll be watching the first card.
Yeah.
I lock that in.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, this is just huge news to see moving forward. And, I mean, I'm even just trying to guess who they would have in their first fight on the card for
star-studded.
Oh, they'll load that up. They will load that up. I don't even want to try speculating. I mean, perfect world, I would say Sage Northcutt versus Eddie Alvarez, but
right. Yeah, we don't know who's going to be on it, but the first event is scheduled for January 19th.
Now that is relatively quick. So they definitely are going to hit the ground running, ball rolling, however you want to define it.
Yep.
Because especially on the 19th too, if I'm not mistaken, is that when the UFC is doing their first card on ESPN Plus?
I believe so. If it's not the same date, it's right around there.
Because I know that there's the 26th card.
Yeah.
The following week, that's the pay-per-view though. I believe that's the one with Dillashaw and Cejudo.
Yeah.
So interesting times to be an MMA fan, folks. But let us know what you think of the deal. I'm all for it, but are you? We want to know here at the ODPH. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What's your thoughts on the big MMA deal with one championship in Turner Sports? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
coming back for the third segment on this week's ODPH, and we're going to kind of flip it a little bit. We're going to do rounding the bases a little early because when we get into the local minute, I might be going a little long with it this week. So let's go round those bases. Pad, I'm going to kick off if that's all right.
Sure.
So last night, the Lakers were hosting the Miami Heat, and the Lakers had won 108-105.
Yep.
Now, why is this game significant?
Yeah, because it's not the Knicks, and it's not exactly in our backyard.
Right, this isn't, but this was kind of noteworthy on a level that I didn't really think about, and I thought it was just kind of very interesting because the hype around this game was this was going to be the last time in the regular season that Dwayne Wade was going to be facing LeBron James.
Right, because while they are in opposite conferences, so there is the potential they could meet in the playoffs, it would have to be the NBA Finals, and well, as it sits, that's probably not going to happen.
Now, as we're recording, Miami's the 9th seed, and the Lakers are the 5th in their respective conferences. But just to kind of see this go back and forth, it was kind of really telling because I know Dwayne Wade is on his last year, and I want to say he's kind of doing a very, would you say a quiet farewell tour?
Yeah, it's a quiet farewell tour because, you know, they did show a video tribute at the Staples Center last night, but it's not the Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera farewell tour where, oh, it's your last game against such and such team. Here's a thing to remember. It's, you know, he might be getting video tributes. You know, he's doing a thing where he's swapping jerseys with players where initially he said it was going to be with the guys from the quote-unquote banana boat, but it's kind of turned into, you know, friends and people he respects in the NBA, and he's swapping jerseys. So it's a nice thing to see.
Yeah, and for anybody that doesn't know about the banana boat, it was a photo that was taken with LeBron and Dwayne Wade and a couple other NBA players that they really kind of formed like a real like fraternity almost amongst themselves. So obviously seeing this though and knowing the history of Dwayne Wade and LeBron, this was very, you know, kind of surreal to see for me.
It was wild to see and wild to think of because, you know, for as long as I've been paying attention to the NBA, which admittedly is since they came into the NBA, they've always been there. It's always like they always haven't been going to head and duking it out. And when they were playing together, it was fun to watch. But they've always been the constants of the NBA that, like, you turn on whatever sports show you're going to watch, Fox Sports, ESPN, whatever, you're going to see Dwayne Wade highlights. You're going to see LeBron James highlights. It was just one of those. And it's just wild to think, okay, we're not going to see that anymore.
No, it's definitely a changing of the guard, so to speak. And it's kind of wild because you think about the history with both of those players. And especially going into like last night's game where LeBron knew exactly what Dwayne was going to do in the final minutes of the game.
Right, and of course the final play of the game is Wade and LeBron with the ball. Of course it is.
Yeah, I mean, you can't Hollywood script it any better.
No.
And just going over their history, I mean, obviously Wade getting drafted to Miami when he first came in the league.
Yep.
And he had won a championship with Shaq.
Oh, yeah.
So he's already had that. LeBron, we know his history, the first go-around with Cleveland, bringing them back to prominence, and then them forming the big three with Chris Bosh and causing... You know, I would say a shift in the momentum of the NBA.
Yeah.
Because that's when the whole idea of super teams really kind of took hold. And whether you love them or you hate them, you have to say between Wade, James, and Bosh, that was a moment in time that definitely changed the course of history for the NBA.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I hated it because I am very old school in my thinking, and I like thinking, you know, every team should have one superstar. I don't like seeing super teams going. I'm more of like the Giannis from the Milwaukee Bucks thinking. That's I agree with him a lot on in the current, you know, tempo of the NBA. But you have to give the respect due to the big three when they win, because obviously they showed a blueprint about people coming together, and obviously their goal, they didn't win 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 as they gave that initial press conference. But they won a couple. They did lose a couple, too.
Right.
So they definitely made their history moment. Showed, you know what, when great players can work together and make it happen, they can have a great success.
And it was definitely a pushing moment for the both of them. I know a lot of people have compared LeBron's time in Miami to kind of him going off to college and really learning himself in the game a little bit more. And you look at what Wade signed on his jersey when he gave it to LeBron last night. I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something to the effect of, you know, thank you for pushing me to be more than I thought I could be.
Oh, absolutely. Because if you think about it, too, when LeBron left Cleveland, and I've gone on record, said it, I hate how he did it the first time.
Yeah.
Absolutely hated it. And I've ripped that to shreds no time and time again. But when he got to Miami, Wade did show him and pushed him a little harder. And LeBron did the same thing with Dwayne Wade, too. Because if you think about it, when you win a championship that early in your career, that is something that, it's hard to kind of duplicate that success because, if you're just, it depends on your mentality of it. And if you've been so accustomed to winning, then when you don't win a lot, there's big gaps in time, then that's when, you kind of need something to re-kickstart your batteries. And when the big three did, they painted a big bullseye on their backs.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think that was more of a drive than anything else.
They were Golden State before Golden State was a thing. Like, everyone talks about how big a target Golden State has on its back with having 5 All-Stars, which admittedly, this is a little apples to oranges, but the comparison is alike in that, Wade, because I remember that summer very vividly where there was a lot of free agents. There was a lot of questions of who was going to go where. And I remember all the teams going, the Knicks, the Heat, the Celtics, the this, the that, going to meet with LeBron and where's he going to end up. And then it's, Wade's re-signing with Miami. LeBron's signing in Miami. And so is Chris Bosh. I just remember, they just got the biggest target on the planet painted on their backs.
Yeah, and I also think it kind of humbled them a little bit because they didn't have the great success coming out the gate right away.
No.
They did win, don't get me wrong, but obviously I think LeBron grew, out of everybody else involved down there because when he went back to, because like I said, he didn't have to go back to Cleveland.
No.
He did. He won them a championship. Cavs fans, you can't be mad at him for leaving now.
No.
He brought you a chip when he didn't need to. And Dwayne Wade stayed with Miami. And I mean, granted, there was that kind of little falling out he had, and he wound up in Chicago for a cup of coffee. But he's back in Miami, finishing it out. I mean, when I think of Miami Heat players, he is one that comes to mind.
Yes.
Almost like instantaneously. Mm-hmm. Just because he always is the face of the franchise. And yeah, I know he played for the Bulls for a quick minute, but
right.
That's kind of irrelevant. But just to kind of see them go head-to-head one last time, it's definitely kind of surreal.
Yeah.
Because, when you see these players playing for so long at such an elite level, and then when they say, okay, it's time to hang them up, it's always just kind of bittersweet to see. But this was definitely a moment last night worth talking about.
Yeah.
All right, Pat, what you got for yours?
Of course, I'm going to talk a little bit of baseball news. As we record, Andrew McCutchen has signed a deal with the Philadelphia Phillies for 3 years. Don't have the exact numbers in front of me for dollar amount. Club has not confirmed. Is some Yankee news, though. Rather interesting Yankee news. It was getting reported last night that there was some stuff going around in Vegas because, of course, every Major League Baseball team is in Las Vegas for the winter meetings, which is essentially where the head offices of every baseball team get together. They hash out potential new rules for the new year. It's also where a lot of deals get done. Of course, the Yankee fans will remember the one year where, story goes, Brian Cashman snuck out of a room and landed CC Sabathia. A lot of crazy stuff can happen. It's always a fun time for baseball fans. Marlins man is there, of all people. So if Marlins man is there, you know who he is. It's a big deal. But the rather interesting thing that came out last night is there was a potential and rumored, and I want to stress this, rumored deal between the New York Mets, the Miami Marlins, and the New York Yankees, where the details aren't real specific, but essentially what would happen is the Mets would get the Marlins catcher JT Realmuto, who is a high prospect high valued commodity for a lot of teams. He's a catcher. He's young. A lot of teams are looking at him. The Mets would get him, and then the Yankees would get Noah Syndergaard.
That would be huge.
That would be.
Because the Yankees need to get some pitching.
Yeah.
I know everybody's been talking about Bryce Harper coming. That's already been kiboshed for the most part.
Yep, Brian Cashman did come out this past week and say they are out on Bryce Harper, and I agree with that because look at it this way. It was reported, I want to say it was last month or in October, I can't remember the specifics, but at some point last year, the Washington Nationals offered Bryce Harper a 10-year, $300 million deal, and he said no.
Yeah, this is just something I know that, if you're doing fantasy baseball or, playing like a video game, this is a great move on paper.
Guilty.
But Harper would be the 7th outfielder, if I'm not mistaken, in the Yankees lineup. I mean, unless you're going to start flipping some people for pitching, this doesn't make sense.
No, and especially where, the Yankees have been talking about spending less and not doing as much, and I know they added Giancarlo, and there's that whole contract.
But that was more of a deal than anything.
Right.
So you couldn't turn that down.
Right. You couldn't turn that down. But when you're talking about spending less and not being the Yankees of old, where we're going to buy our players and pay an obscene amount of money for them, if you had one team already offer him 10 years and $300 million and he said no, logic would tell me, and I'm no mathematician, I'm no psychic, it would tell me, okay, we got to go higher than that for him to say yes. And I'm sorry, any sane person would go, yeah, no, I'm not going north of $300 million, and I'm not going more than 10 years.
My gut instinct is Harper is still going to Chicago, so I think, he'll get a good contract no matter what. I just don't see him coming to the Bronx. I haven't, and unless, like, for some reason they flip everybody they have in the outfield for some pitching, it's just not going to happen. I don't even see the Machado deal happening per se.
Yeah, that one's been, I've heard he isn't. It's back and
It
forth.
just doesn't make a lot of sense because, then you're going to try moving Didi when he gets healthy.
Right, and then the other name I keep seeing mentioned, but really no specific team, is Dallas Keuchel of the Houston Astros. His name's been flown around a lot the last couple days.
Well, it's going to be, like we say, this is the hot stove rumor mill. Everybody's name is kind of mentioned somewhere. There was some talk the Yankees are interested in trade talks for Miguel Andujar, which I still want to wait and see on. I know it's been leaked, but it might be just throwing a name out there to see the reaction.
Yeah.
I know Mike C. from Horror Zone 607 will have a lot to say about that when the minute he catches word. So hit him up at the Horror Zone about that. He will talk Yankee baseball with you, and he will tell you about how much of a horror show it is with the free agent signings. But getting back to the point, though, the Yankees have to do some moves for pitching if they're going to compete with Boston.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a must move. So if they can get Syndergaard, that would be huge.
I'll say about the only thing the Yankees have going for them against Boston, it would seem that their closer, Craig Kimbrell, seems to be going someplace else and not staying in Boston.
Right.
That's about the only thing they have going for them.
But Boston will find somebody else. I give the Devils their due. Boston will always compete with the Yanks. And vice versa.
Yeah,
so, that's the benchmark you set against. So for the Yankees, they got to make some moves. And it's going to be crazy by the time winter meetings are done too.
Oh yeah,
because you'll hear some big names get signed very, very shortly. I would fully imagine. But hit us up on the hashtag ODPH. What did you think about Dwayne Wade and LeBron's final game together? What do you think about the Major League Baseball hot trade talk? We want to know. Hit us up. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH. The greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Hot lips touching, cool thighs feeling, shudder running up, her spine spinning, long day to a long night, but I'm not stopping till I get it right.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH, and we got to kick off that local minute. Pad, what you got?
Not a good week for the Binghamton Devils. Their game on Friday against the Syracuse Crunch. In Syracuse, they lost 5-0. They came back home on Saturday to face the Utica Comets, where they lost a heartbreaker 7-4. And then on Sunday the 9th, they traveled to the Springfield Thunderbirds and lost another game 5-1. Moving them to the standings to last place, where they are 10-14. Not out of it, not looking good. So there's definite room for improvement. Then looking forward to their schedule coming up. They've got a game on Wednesday, December 12th, in Syracuse against the Americans.
Rochester
Americans, thank you. Friday, they travel to the Utica Comets to play them. And then Saturday, they are back home against the Bellevue Senators.
It's rivalry week here in the 607.
Yep.
Anybody knows the history between Belleville and the Binghamton, it's the former Ottawa Senators affiliate facing the new one.
Yep.
So, obviously, more information, binghamtondevils.com. So now I'm going to go talk some Binghamton Bulldogs action.
Okay.
Now, the Bulldogs have been on fire lately, and they avenged their loss against Scranton. But so this weekend, they were back in action, but they were not back in action just alone. They had Jimmy Gray back in the lineup.
Oh, okay.
Who had been out this previous start of the season, dealing with an injury, and he came back in a big way, had 23 points in his return game against Rock City. They won 131-119. Derek Hart had 23 points. Moni Anderson had 19. And then they welcomed Baltimore to the Dog Pound 2.0. And that one, let me tell you this. Baltimore traveled well. Had a big fan section.
Ooh, good for them.
At Davis College.
Good for them.
And they were definitely game for the Bulldogs. And this was not an easy game for the Dogs. Albeit, though, Jimmy Gray shot out the building, hitting 6 of 7 three-pointers in the first half.
Wow.
He was on fire.
So what you're saying is he was standing on a pier and the basket was the ocean and he could not miss.
Yeah, he could not miss in that first half. He was just nailing them wherever they were throwing the ball. But Baltimore was coming right back. This was not anything that they were rolling over and they were up by 30 at any point. I think the highest point lead I remember seeing was 15.
Okay.
But Baltimore came back and got it within 3 with 2 minutes left.
Wow.
So this was nothing to sneeze at. Baltimore definitely showed a lot of heart, but so did the Bulldogs. And the Bulldogs wind up pulling off the win 107-100. So now we're going to fast forward to this weekend. Now the Bulldogs are home. They're putting their undefeated home record from the past 2 seasons.
Okay.
They have not lost in the playoffs, and they have not lost at a regular season.
Ooh.
They're currently ranked 6th in the country via the ABA.
Okay, that's impressive. Very impressive.
They now have Jimmy Gray back in the lineup, and they're facing the number 1 ranked team in the ABA, the Syracuse Stallions.
Okay.
Now, the last time the Dogs faced the Stallions, they lost 132-124. Note, Jimmy Gray was not in the lineup. The boys played with a lot of heart. Don't get it twisted. They were definitely in that game. I was watching the game via Facebook, and the team was within, I would say, 4 points late in the game. So, that being said, this Saturday night is arguably the biggest regular season game in the Bulldogs' history.
Mm-hmm.
Because now Syracuse is undefeated coming in to Binghamton. They're going to travel, I would imagine, very heavy.
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
So there is no bigger game, in my opinion, this weekend locally than Syracuse versus Binghamton.
So what you're saying, let me get this straight. Binghamton is undefeated.
At home. At home.
Syracuse is undefeated this season.
Mm-hmm.
As the saying goes, something's got to give.
Something has to give. And like I said, the Jimmy Gray factor is going to play a big part.
Yeah.
Is it going to be the swing point or is it not? We don't know. I was actually talking to Jimmy Evans this morning a little bit, who we're trying to book to come on the show in January, fingers crossed, to talk a little Binghamton Bulldogs action with everybody. But he's hyped for the game. We are hyped for the game. I pretty much, if you notice, I've been kind of struggling talking because I was nearly losing my voice at the game Saturday. I'll probably lose it by next week because I know I'm going to be there yelling. I know the panel is probably going to be in attendance too. I don't want to book them just yet because I'm not sure about Sound Guy Galore, JR, or Coach Duffy. But if you have the chance to go to the Bulldogs, if you've never been to a Bulldogs game, this is the one you go to. Number 1 ranked Syracuse versus number 6 now, Binghamton. Everybody says there's nothing to do in town. There's a great hockey game going on, but the Bulldogs have everything on the line with the undefeated home record against an undefeated team ranked number 1 in the country. I don't think I can sell it any more than I'm doing. More information, including ticket information, BinghamtonBulldogs.com. We're going to be hyping it all week on Daily Dice, the ODPH Daily Blog. And like I say, I can't stress this enough. If you can get down to the Bulldogs game this weekend, this Saturday, 7:05 tip-off, get there. It's going to be a big game. Syracuse is going to probably travel big, but this is our home court, folks. If you are a Bulldogs fan and you want to see some great basketball action, get a ticket, get in attendance. Thank me later. Let's go Bulldogs. Pad, I don't think I can say any more.
No, I think you've done a very good job hyping it up. If you are not excited for the Binghamton Bulldogs game, get down there and you'll get hype.
There's no way you can't. I'm really trying to contain my excitement because I don't want to blow my voice out again. But I'm just saying, what else can we really say? Undefeated versus undefeated home record. This is the kind of heavyweight bout we want to see. This is going to be some great basketball action. The Bulldogs are going to try avenging one of their losses from this season. Syracuse wants to keep their record intact. Need I say more, folks? I don't know how else I can sell this. Easily said and done. Get a ticket, go to the game, make some noise. If I haven't already said it, I'm going to say it again. BinghamtonBulldogs.com. Hashtag it up. Bulldogs, Syracuse, however you want to hashtag it up. Fill the pound up. The dog pound is going to be rocking Saturday night. get there if you can, if you're not going to the Devils game. But I just say this is the biggest rivalry week in Binghamton sports thus far this year. Pat, what you got for the locks and leaps?
Well, if I'm going to look at my lock first, I'm going to take a look at the Green Bay Packers and Chicago Bears game. Currently, Chicago is a 5.5-point favorite. Definitely looking at Chicago to cover that. Now, I know some people might be going, but you said a couple weeks ago it's Aaron Rodgers. It's a divisional game. Yes, that is true, but I have one question. Is Khalil Mack playing?
Yeah.
There's your answer.
Yeah, this one, there's definitely some revenge from week 1 on the minds.
Yeah.
And I tell you, it's going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, unless, Khalil Mack oversleeps, doesn't eat his favorite breakfast in the morning, whatever it may be, there's no way he isn't going to be a monster and just absolutely dominate this game and just give that offensive line all sorts of headaches all game long. Switching over to my leap, I took them last week. They did me well. Going to take them again. Looking at the Cleveland Browns against the Denver Broncos game, currently Denver is a 3-point favorite. Looking at the Browns, I think they're on a hot streak. Baker's got the hot hand. The entire offense is clicking. I think Cleveland's going to pull that one out.
That's going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah.
That is definitely, especially Saturday night, too.
Uh-huh.
We're now switching to the Saturday schedule.
Yep.
For a couple games, so make sure if your team is playing to check the schedule before making plans.
Yep.
All right, so I got to get to my locks and leaps because this is definitely it's a little tougher than I thought it was going to be this week.
A couple weeks you look at it, they're real easy. This week,
a couple jump out and you're like, yeah, this one's really sticking. But this one, who am I going to take? I think I'm just going to throw because I got my leap ready, and I think my leap, I can already hear Coach Duffy dropping his phone. I can hear Sound Guy Galore falling out of his chair wherever he's at. So let's go for my lock. I am going to take those New York Giants favored 2.5 over Tennessee.
Okay.
Now Tennessee will scrap with them, and this is going to be a close game.
This ain't going to be 40-15.
No, and this is a game Tennessee should win.
Yeah, you would think.
But that's why I'm taking the Giants because every time I think the Giants are going to lose,
right,
they pull the win off.
This is true.
And for my leap, I said they were going to go to the Super Bowl and win the whole thing. Phillip Rivers plus 3.5 with the rest of the Los Angeles, should be San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
Going into Arrowhead Stadium to face the Chiefs.
Okay.
Now, this is going to be a very close game. I know the first time they played, not so much.
It's going to be loud.
It's going to be loud. It's Thursday night. It's going to be rocking. It's going to be a great game. And I'm telling you, it's going to be closer than people think.
Oh, yeah.
I will even go on the record and say 31-28.
Okay.
That's how confident I'm feeling about this. And I think it's going to be a late field goal that's going to be involved in the Chargers win. Now, am I rooting against Kansas City? No, I just want a great game. But I'm telling you what, the Chargers are playing at a high level right now. Even without Melvin Gordon in the lineup, I think Phillip Rivers is they're going over that game film from the first time they played.
Oh, they've been watching it since that game.
And this has huge, huge, huge implications for the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So you can't say this is going to be not the game of the week because, in my opinion, it is. And I'm telling you what, I got a feeling the Chargers are going to pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
But let us know what you think. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. Make sure you go to our social media pages, like, share, rate, review, whatever you can do. We want to talk and interact with you. So for Padawan J,
thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH. Go Bulldogs. We'll see you next time.